Hi there, I'm Lee Beckshaw from Simmonds Stewart, and thanks for joining our VC term sheet deep dive. This is video 3 in the series. Remember that if you want to follow the marked up term sheet whilst you watch the video, click on the link below and you can download the term sheet. And we've got a whole bunch of other resources on our website at www.simmonsstewart.com if you want to learn a little bit more about raising capital in Southeast Asia. Okay, so this is video 3, and video 3 and video 4 are going to cover the rights attaching to the preference shares that you're going to be issuing to investors on the Series A round. And this takes up a fair chunk of the term sheet, in fact. So some of these issues are pretty important to investors and very commonly seen in term sheets. First thing to say is that you're almost certainly going to be issuing preference shares to investors as part of a Series A round, which means they take priority over the ordinary shareholders in various respects. And we'll talk about in this video what those elements are, and indeed in the next video as well. I wouldn't waste your time trying to negotiate a deal involving ordinary shares, because most VC and other Series A investors are not going to accept that position. Okay, so what are the preferential rights? Well, the first one to consider is dividends. Investors sometimes, or actually more often than not, put in a term sheet that they will have a preferential dividend, which means that they receive by way of a dividend or other distribution in priority to the holders of ordinary shareholders. Now, our view is that on Series A deals, preferential dividends are not that common, and we would normally mark up the term sheet so that it's clear that effectively preference shareholders receive dividends on a pro rata basis to the ordinary shareholders. The issue with a preferential dividend is, particularly if it's a cumulative dividend and one that is mandatory, is that potentially unpaid dividends can roll over from year to year, and when you finally get to a liquidity event, it can be that it can result in significant payments being made out to investors, which of course reduces the proceeds that comes out to founders. So, starting point is no preferential dividend. If investors do insist on some kind of preferential dividend, make sure that it is on a non-cumulative basis, and that it only relates to dividends that are actually declared at the option of the board. One of the key aspects of any term sheet that you will receive on a Series A financing round is the liquidation preference. And this is effectively downside protection for investors when you get to some kind of liquidity event, which can be a winding up of the company or hopefully a sale of the company. And liquidation preferences come in all shapes or sizes, but most commonly, investors look at as a minimum to receive back their investment amount. Now, it may be that they also, or alternatively, request that they have a multiple of that investment amount back. And this means that they receive back that minimum amount of proceeds on the liquidity event before ordinary shareholders participate. So, the liquidation preference is sort of fundamental to investors. The other aspect of it is whether the preference is a participating preference or a non-participating preference. And a participating preference means that after the investors have taken their initial preferential amount back, the balance of the proceeds gets shared on a pro rata basis between the ordinary shareholders and the preference shareholders. And what sometimes people call double dipping. A non-participating preference means that after the investors have taken their preferential amount, the balance is effectively distributed out just to the ordinary shareholders. And the result of that means, in most cases, that as long as they're going to get more than their money back, the investors will convert their preference shares into ordinary shares and effectively just share in the proceeds on a pro rata basis to the ordinary shareholders. Now, in Southeast Asia, on Series A rounds, it is generally the position that investors will accept a one-times non-participating liquidation preference, which effectively means as long as they're going to get their initial investment amount back on any liquidity event, then otherwise they will convert into ordinary shares and effectively just participate on a pro rata basis alongside the ordinary shareholders. One technical point to mention is convertible note holders. As many seed investors may have come into the company by way of a convertible note, they may now be being issued Series A shares as part of this round. There is an argument that they shouldn't have the benefit of the same liquidation preference as the incoming investors on the basis that they've not paid the same price. And so sometimes, if there are convertible note holders, we'd put something in the term sheet making it clear that the note holders effectively have a liquidation preference based on their actual subscription price, which is effectively their conversion price when their convertible note converts into shares. There will also be a section in the term sheet on voting rights. And to be honest, there's not much to say here. Preference shareholders have the same rights to vote as ordinary shareholders. And so the term sheet shouldn't say anything other than that, in effect, that effectively preference shareholders can vote on a pro rata basis to ordinary shareholders on an as converted basis. But that simply means effectively one vote for each share. If there's anything other than that, then it's out of the ordinary and you need to amend that. The last thing I'd say about just generally preferential rights, and specifically liquidation preference, is that when you're negotiating the position, always think about the next round when you're negotiating this round, because if you agree to a multiple participating preference, for example, the economics of that may not be significant now, but bear in mind that when you raise future capital, your incoming Series B investors are going to ask for the same or indeed even superior rights. And of course, at the level that they're investing, that can have a material impact on the amount of proceeds that get distributed out to ordinary shareholders on a liquidity event. So always think about the future financing round and not this round, because future investors are always going to want the same or indeed better rights than your Series A investors are receiving. Okay, so that's the end of video 3. We'll continue talking about some of the rights attaching to preference shares in video 4. And remember, as always, that if you want to keep up to date with future videos in the series, make sure that you click on the link below.